Alrighty, we are in 2 Samuel chapter 8, page 323 in the scriptures-ish, roughly. We talked last time about David and the blessing of the house of David by Yah, and David's commitment to build Yah a house for himself. And yeah, that's pretty much, you can go back, should go back and watch that. Read it in your word. Would be a great way to handle that. Just read it in your word. Chapter 8. And after this it came to be that David struck the Philistines and humbled them. And David took the bridle of the mother city out of the hand of the Philistines. That would be the city of Gath. And he also struck Moab. And so David is back on the warpath. That's a big part of what we're going to read about today, is David is just getting after it, man. Real coffee. He also struck Moab and measured them off with a line, causing them to lie down on the earth. With 2 lines he measured off those to be put to death, and with 1 complete line those to be kept alive. And the Moabites became David's servant and brought presents. Now that particular phrase right there, and he measured them off with a line. Some people have said that he measured their height. And the ones that were tall were, the bad guys, the Philistines, right? Moab, the giants, right? If you were over, almost like the reverse of the riding on the roller coaster, you must be this tall to ride the line. It's like, well, you must be under this tall to survive. Some people have made that. Other people have simply said he made them lie down in a line, and they killed 2, spared 1, killed 2, spared 1, killed 2, spared 1. I think with 2 lines, he measured off those to be put to death. With 1 complete line, those to be kept alive. You think about, with 2 lines, he measured off those to be put to death. They were twice as tall as a man. And with 1 complete line, those to be kept alive, the regular height of a man. And the Moabites became David's servants and brought presents. So he killed the giant blood out from them. And you can and should research that more deeply yourself. And David also struck Hadadezer, we'll just call him Hadaddy. David also struck Hadaddy, son of Rehob, sovereign of Sovah, as he went to restore his rule at the river Euphrates. And David captured from him 1,700 horsemen and 20,000 foot soldiers. And David destroyed all the chariots, but he left of them 100 chariots. And he destroyed all but 100 chariots. And the Arameans of Damascus came to help Hadaddy, sovereign of Sovah, and David struck 22,000 of the Arameans. And David put watchposts in Aram of Damascus, and the Arameans became David's servants and brought presents. He is ruling and subduing. Back to that Adamic covenant. He's just getting after it. And Yahweh saved David wherever he went. And David took the shields of gold which were on the servants of Hadaddy and brought them to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem. And from Beta and from Berothai, cities of Hadaddy, King David took very much bronze. Sound familiar? Remember when the Israelites are building the tent of appointment, the tabernacle in the wilderness, and people are like, where did they get all this gold? Where did they get all this silver? Well, they plundered the Egyptians when they left, right? They were being bribed, begged by the Egyptians to just leave after the killing of the firstborn. They plundered the Egyptians. Well, here's David plundering all of the heathens around him. And to Toi, king of Hamath, and Toi, king of Hamath, heard that David had stricken all the army of Hadaddy. So Toi sent Joram, his son, the king, to King David to ask peace of him and bless him. So this guy Toi heard that Hadaddy got his butt whipped, so he sends his son to King David to work out a peace deal. Because he had fought against Hadaddy and struck him, for Hadaddy had battles with Toi too. And Joram brought with him objects of silver and objects of gold and objects of bronze. And sovereign David, King David, also set these apart to Yahweh, along with the silver and gold that he had set apart from all the nations which he had humbled. from Aram, and from Moab, and from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines, and from Amalek, and from the spoil of Hadad, son of Rehob, king of Sovah. David made a name for himself when he returned from striking 18,000 Arameans in the valley of Salt. And he put watchposts in Edom. Throughout all Edom he put watchposts, and all the Edomites became David's servants. And Yahweh saved David wherever he went. That's the second time we see that phrase in this one passage, almost as if the Father wants us to understand. And Yahweh saved David wherever he went. He was on the war path for Yah. And all these people that are in this area are people that should have been wiped out by the Israelites first time around when they took the promised land. But they didn't. They didn't do it. And here's David having to try and clean up this mess again, make servants of them. Also, you think of like the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. There can be peace as long as you are in league to Rome. So David is killing all these people who are taking the battlefield, and then everybody who's left is going, you know what? You're all right, David. Sure, we'd love some peace with you. And he's establishing watchtowers, posts, fobs amongst these people. So he has his people indwelt amongst the indigenous people. So, gathering intel, building rapport, forward operating positions, right? And he put watchposts in Edom. Throughout all Edom he put watchposts, and throughout all the Edomites became David's servants. And Yahweh saved David wherever he went. And David reigned over all Israel, and David was doing right ruling and righteousness to all his people. And David was doing right ruling, which is justice, and righteousness. Wait a minute. I was told in the Christian church, no man is righteous, no, not one. Well, that's a rebuke, not a statement on humanity. Righteousness is Luke chapter 1, verse 6, blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah. And blamelessly means you're doing it to the best of your ability. If we could do it perfectly, if we could keep all these commands, and clearly David didn't either, yet Yah was with him wherever he went. If we could do it perfectly, we wouldn't need a Messiah. You want to talk about negating the grace of Yeshua? No. Abusing the grace of Yeshua is continuing to live in sin after claiming his blood of redemption. What is sin? It's lawlessness. 1 John 3, verse 4. Being outside of the law, being unrighteous. Being covered by the blood of the Lamb is blamelessly walking to the best of your ability in the commands of Yah, which is in the Gospel of Luke in the New Testament, chapter 1, verse 6. That's the New Testament definition of righteousness. So David is walking with Yah, and he's doing this righteousness and right ruling to the best of his ability. And Yah was with him wherever he went. Amen. That is badass. That's awesome. And Joab, son of Zeruiah, was over the army, and Jehoshaphat, son of Achilud, was recorder, and Salak, son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech, son of Ebeyathar, were the priests, and Sariah was the scribe, and Benayahu, son of Yehoda, was over both the Kerethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were priests. Interesting. David is a foreshadowing of the coming Messiah, especially for the Jews, the Yehudim, which, by the way, do not have a monopoly on the Father's chosen people. That would be Israel. And Israel, the nation of Israel, is not a nation state on a map. It's the Father's chosen people. A king priest. What is Yeshua? He's high priest. We know this per Hebrews. He is the king. We know this all throughout the word. Priest of what? All that stuff that was done away with? Oh, wait a minute. It wasn't done away with, was it? Well, it's been nailed to the cross. You should go read Colossians 2 and see what was actually nailed to the cross. What was nailed to the cross is the doctrines and dogmas of men. The religious bullcrap that is spewed to you from behind the pulpit, that's what was nailed to the cross. Yeah. Colossians 2. Read the whole chapter. Chapter 9, 2 Samuel 9. And David said, is there still anyone who is left in the house of Shaul, that I might show him loving commitment because of Jonathan? Remember his best friend Jonathan? He's like, is there anybody left of Shaul? Now that things are going pretty well, I feel a conviction to make sure that that family's taken care of. And the house of Shaul had a servant whose name was Siba. And they had called him to David. And the king said to him, are you Siba? And he said, yeah, I'm your servant, bro. And the sovereign said, is there not still someone in the house of Shaul, so that I show him the loving commitment of Elohim? And Siba said to the king, there is still a son of Jonathan, lame in his feet. So the sovereign said to him, where is he? And Siba said to the sovereign, see, he's in the house of Machir, son of Amiel, in Lo Debar. And King David sent and brought him out of the house of Machir, son of Amiel, in Lo Debar. And Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, son of Shaul, came to David, and fell on his face, and did obeisance. And David said, Mephibosheth. And he answered, here is your servant. And David then said to him, do not fear, for I shall certainly show you loving commitment because of Jonathan your father, and shall return to you all the land of Shaul your grandfather, and let you eat bread at my table continually. Righteousness and right ruling. And he bowed himself and said, what is your servant that I should turn what is your servant that you should turn to such a dead dog as I? He's like, who am I to deserve this from you, King David? And the king called Siba, servant of Shaul, and said to him, I have given to your master's son all that belonged to Shaul, and to all his house. Wow. And you and your sons and your servants shall work the land for him. Look at that. Healing the lame. Oh, it's almost like the Old Testament matters. The concept that the curses of the father do not transfer to the son. The breaking of generational curses because of a king that is doing right ruling and righteousness to all his people. And you and your sons and your servants shall work the land for him, and you shall bring in its yield, and your master's son shall have food to eat. But let Mephibosheth, your master's son, eat bread at my table always. And Siba had 15 sons and 20 servants. And Siba said to the king, according to all that my master, the king has commanded my servant, so your servant does. As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table as one of the sons of the king. And Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah. And all who dwelt in the house of Siba were servants of Mephibosheth. And Mephibosheth was dwelling in Jerusalem, for he ate continually at the king's table, and he was lame in both his feet. Now David didn't fix his feet, but he fixed everything else that he had going on as the downstream ramifications of being the grandson of Saul, King Saul. Talk about loving commitment, righteousness and right ruling. Forsake not the widow and the orphan. Let's see. We got time. We'll do 10 as well. And after this, it came to be that the king of the children of Ammon died. The Ammonites, remember those guys? And Hanun, his son, reigned in his place. And David said, let me show loving commitment to Hanun, son of Nahash, as his father showed loving commitment to me. And so David sent by the hand of his servants to comfort him concerning his father, his household, which had been good to David. He's like, bro, I'm sorry to hear about your daddy passing. And when David's servants came into the land of the children of Ammon, the chiefs of the children of Ammon said to Hanun their master, is David esteeming your father in your eyes in that he has sent comforters to you? Has David rather not sent his servants to you to search the city and to spy it out and overthrow it? And so Hanun, the son of Ammon, his daddy dies. David sends an entourage and says, hey man, I'm sorry to hear that your daddy died. Hanun's friends, his advisors, are like, Are they really here because they're sorry your daddy died? Or are they here because your daddy died? And David, this great military fighter, great general, has sent them in here to search out the place. Expose your weaknesses so that he can take it now that your daddy's dead. Verse 4, so Hanun took David's servants and shaved off half of their beards and cut off their garments in the middle as far as their buttocks and sent them away. He left them half bare and bare-assed. He embarrassed them, humiliated them. And they informed David, and he sent to meet them because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, wait at Jericho until your beards have grown, and then return. And when the children of Ammon saw that they had become a stench to David, they realized, oh man, we done effed up. We made a mistake. The children of Ammon sent and hired Arameans of Beth Rehob and Arameans of Soba, 20,000 foot soldiers, and the king of Maacah, 1,000 men, and the men of Tob, 12,000 men. And David heard, and sent Joab and the entire army, the mighty men. I was like, oh, you're going to stand up an army? That's cool. Joab. And the children of Ammon came out and put themselves in battle array at the entrance of the gate. And the Arameans of Soba and Rehob, and the men of Tob and Maacah were by themselves in the field. And Joab saw that the battle line was against him before and behind. And he chose out of all the chosen men of Israel and put them in the battle array against the Arameans. So he took his special forces, his best guys, because they're not surrounded, but they're on the left and the right, or before and behind. He says, all right, special guys, the best guys, you are going to smash the Arameans. You're going to deal with this threat over here while the rest of us deal with this threat over here. And the rest of the people he gave under the hand of Abishai, his brother, and he put them in the battle array against the children of Ammon. So you've got the Arameans and the children of Ammon, okay? And so Joab splits his forces. Joab takes his special forces and attacks the Arameans. Abishai takes the regular infantry and attacks the children of Ammon. And he said, if the Arameans are too strong for me, if the Arameans over here are too strong for me, you pull over here and reinforce. And if the children of Ammon are too strong for you, we'll pull over here and reinforce. If the Arameans are too strong for me, then you shall help me. But if the children of Ammon are too strong for you, then I shall come and help you. Be strong, and let us show strength for our people and for the cities of our Elohim. And let Yahweh do what is good in his eyes. And Joab drew near, and the people with him, to battle against Aram. And they fled before him. It's like, what's up? Let's do it. And they fled before him. And when the children of Ammon saw that the Arameans were fleeing, they also fled before Abishai and went into the city. All right, it's battle time. Joab's going to go over here and whoop the heinies of the Arameans. Abishai's going to go over here and whoop the heinies of the children of Ammon. Well, when the Arameans realize what Joab and Abishai are doing, they're like, bro, we're out. And they bounce. Well, when they start bouncing, they're retreating, they're leaving. The children of Ammon, the Ammonites, are like, they bounce. They haven't even had a battle yet. They're like, oh, we thought we had Israel, cornered. Negative. And Aram saw that they were smitten before Israel. Here we go. Verse 14, and when the children of Ammon saw that the Arameans were fleeing, they also fled before Abishai and went into the city. And Joab returned from the children of Ammon and came to Jerusalem. And Aram, the Arameans, saw that they were smitten before Israel, and they gathered together. And Hadad sent and brought out the Arameans who were beyond the river. And they came to Helem. And Shobach, the commander of the army at Hadazer, went before them. And it was reported to David that he gathered all Israel and passed over the Jordan and came to Helem. And Aram set themselves in battle array against David and fought with him. So they retreated. Hadad reinforces them, the Arameans. So the Arameans retreat. They cross over the river. Hadadazer, or whatever his name is, he reinforces the Arameans. David gets ear of it, and he takes everybody. And they go. And Aram set themselves in battle array against David, and they fought with him. And Aram fled before Israel, and David killed 700 charioteers and 40,000 horsemen of Aram. And he struck Shobach, commander of the army, who died there. And all the kings, the servants of Hadad, saw that they were smitten by Israel, and made peace with Israel, and served them. And the Arameans were afraid to help the children of Ammon anymore. They're like, dude, this is a bad deal. Screw you, Ammon. We're not doing this. We lost 700 charioteers and 40,000 horsemen, to say nothing of the regular foot troops. That was on the war path, y'all. We'll leave it there for today. Bless y'all. Shalom.